think by the doctor. Yes, he's got it. Here he comes. Way back the baby in his face.
Until morning. Ewing.
Oh, wow.
Oh, he's going to try to get one more shot off for him. Push the buzzer.
How about that?
Steps over Toronto. He thought about three. He'll put up a three.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Boom Broadcasting presents Three from Deep. I'm your host, Jason Calenzo. Welcome to the show. Thank you all very much for joining me. Welcome to the weekend. Guys, I am super excited about this show, man. We have a lot going on. So take a moment, stop what you're doing, like, subscribe, join Boom Broadcasting. A lot of great content. Got me here, Three from Deep. We got a lot of great shows here on this channel, so please check us out. But guys, this is going to be a fun show. We have a Hall of Famer to talk about. We have a Joker to talk about. We got a chef to talk about. We got some finger pointing to talk about here too. And guys, I say we because this show is going to be so exciting and so big. I had to bring a guest on with me here. So with no further ado, I have to bring out Mr. Cody Johnson from Drew Code Sports Talk. What's going on, Cody? Welcome to the show.
What's going on, Jason? Thanks for the invite, man. Pumped to be on, man. Thanks for the invite again.
Very welcome, man. I am excited to have you on here because we got a lot of great stuff to talk about here, man. So
yeah, we
sit
do.
back, relax, join us, guys. I got my little cup of coffee here too. So we are going to jump right into it. First things first, I want to say congratulations to my man, Carmelo Anthony, first ballot Hall of Famer. Guys, of course, I'm a huge Knicks fan. I'm a huge Syracuse Orange fan. So congratulations to Carmelo Anthony, 10-time NBA All-Star, 6-time All-NBA. 2011 came to my New York Knicks, which I was very, very excited about. Of course, he started in 2003, drafted by those Nuggets, the third spot. I know Detroit's a little sore about that, but that's a whole nother. Guys, 19-year career, 10th in the NBA scoring list. I don't know a lot of people knew that. Top 10 all-time NBA scoring. Of course, 2003 national championship. 3 gold medals, 1 bronze, the U.S. Olympics team. His only hiccup is unfortunately never got to a finals, never won a championship. Of course, it breaks my heart. Same thing with my boy Patrick Ewing. But Cody, again, Melo's one of my favorite players, man, being a Syracuse fan, being a Knicks fan, to have him on there. But biggest thing I want to talk about right now is that 2003 NBA draft is probably one of the greatest drafts of all time.
Mm-hmm.
You had LeBron James, of course, number 1, Carmelo number 3, Chris Bosh number 4, D Wade number 5. You had Collison, Heinrich, Boris Diaw. You had old Kendrick Perkins on there, and then you had your boy Luke Walton in that draft. Was 2003 one of the best or the best draft in NBA history?
That's really hard to say because I would have to ask, what are we measuring it by? Are we measuring it by like championships, or we're measuring it by popularity? Because even still, not a lot of people know about anybody else besides the Banana Boat crew, you know, LeBron, Chris Paul, Chris Bosh, D Wade. Not a lot of people know about those guys outside of that. Maybe some know about Darko Milicic, who was the number 2 overall pick, who was a bust. Maybe some have that, but outside of that, like, it's a couple of no-namers. And, you know, I love Carmelo. I think it's a tragedy that he is essentially the Charles Barkley of this generation, where he's got all the accolades. He was a scorer. I truthfully think he was way more productive than teams gave him credit for in like the twilight of his career, when he kept hopping around to like Portland. He ended up with the Lakers for a hot minute. I felt like he was still like a player that could do a lot of good stuff, just never got that opportunity. But I don't think 2003 is the greatest draft class in NBA history. I know that we'll have this conversation, but I would say there's a strong case for at least 96 for sure, because there's a lot of names and Hall of Famers in that one as well. And I know that there's a draft class you and I both respect that you and I probably would both agree on is the 84 draft. But 03, I think outside of Banana Boat Crew, really nobody else that no one knows about. So I don't know if it's the best draft class of all time.
Well, I mean, even that 84, of course, you had Jordan.
Yeah.
You had John Stockton. You had Charles Barkley. You had Hakeem Adream Olajuwon. But that was kind of it. You had Sam Perkins and Otis Thorpe. I mean, so you had some other names. But you had four. You had big four. So that's kind of like the 03. You got the big four with LeBron, Carmelo, Bosh, and D. Wade. And then 96, you had Kobe, Ray Allen, Steve Nash. I got to throw Peja Stojakovic in there because he's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
There's Camby and Stephon Marbury. Guys you kind of know, but not huge names and Hall of Famers. So that you had kind of the big three in that 96. So that's why I was thinking, like, man, is 2003 one of the greatest drafts? Because, yeah, you had the big four, and you had some other guys there too. But those four guys are essentially first ballot Hall of Famers. I mean, of course, the big four in 1984 were first ballot too. But, I mean, just the Jordan factor, put that over the LeBron James factor. Is that kind of the decision right there between 2003 and 84?
I mean, what makes it tough is you got still Chris Paul, who's still playing. He doesn't have a championship. You have D Wade that's already retired. He's got, I think, 3. Chris Bosh had 2. He retired already. Maybe LeBron James is carrying the class, this draft class into some respect. And also similar to Carmelo Anthony. I mean, it's crazy how he's been gone from the game long enough to where he's eligible for the Hall of Fame now. But I think the reason why 84 is because some of the names that you let off are Hall of Famers. And that's not even including, I think you didn't even name John Stockton, who was towards the bottom half of the first round in that 84 draft. All time, one of the greatest point guards to ever grace the court. And I think he's still the all-time assist leader
of all time, John Stockton.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, look, you got Jordan that we've talked about, Hall of Famer. Charles Barkley, Hall of Famer. You have Irvin Robertson, Hall of Famer right there. Olajuwon at the very top of the draft. Like, those are Hall of Famers throughout. And I know that the big 5 in 03 are going to be future Hall of Famers, but I don't know, man. I think that this 84 draft class really paved the way for the 03 class. But I mean, that's what I'm thinking logistically. But if I'm being honest with even you and the viewers, I think 96 just out of nostalgia, because that was the draft class that would have paved my childhood and had my all-time favorite player, Kobe Bryant, on there. I would say that's the greatest, but I don't even know if that's true, because, I mean, you have a handful of players that are on there, but I think 84 is still like one of the all-time draft classes that have ever happened in the NBA.
I still have 84 up there, but I think this is one of those things that I think the farther away you get, especially in NBA history, you're going to have more of those deeper discussions about those draft classes because, again, you said LeBron James is still playing. Carmelo, Bosh, and D. Wade kind of just retired. I'm sure, D. Wade will be in there. And some of the other guys. I mean, people know Perkins because he's on TV now.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know Luke Walton besides, yourself. If you're a Lakers fan, you remember him dancing on the stage doing the Luke Walton dance.
Well, Bill Walton's son too. Those that don't know that he's, comes from an all-time great center of a father. I mean, you want to talk about great players. Yeah. Bill Walton was one of those guys. He wasn't just a commentator. He was a player.
No, he was. Unfortunately, he's one of those guys where, kind of the Grant Hill of his time, where just phenomenal player, amazing college career, started off hot in the NBA, and then just, his body failed him, his feet failed him. And, same thing with like a Grant Hill or a Penny Hardaway. I mean, I remember Penny Hardaway, you get some of those guys that were injuries really derailed you, who were just on the rise, that looking to be Hall of Famers. And then even though Walton is still a Hall of Famer, I think he made it there, but I think he could have done more. But time will tell. This is definitely an exciting time to be Mr. Carmelo Anthony. I saw him on some commercials today too. So it's great to still see him out there. Still one of my all-time favorite players. Again, he brought Syracuse a national championship for me. So I was actually in New York, living in New York at the time in 03 when he won. And oh man, I was ecstatic. So congratulations, Carmelo Anthony. Love seeing you in the hall, man. And then we'll have some more discussions, because it'd be interesting to see if any other draft class in the next 3-5 years will compare to some of those older classes. So
I mean, 2017 is making a good argument for it right now.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. We got the time will tell on that one here. But let's go. I need you to impress me. And right now, I've been impressed. On Tuesday night, we got to talk about this. I know it's Saturday here, but Tuesday night, Nikola Jokic went bananas. Unfortunately, it was in a loss to the T-Wolves. There was some Russell Westbrook stuff there, but we're not gonna beat him up. But Nikola Jokic, 61 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, and he even had a couple of steals. So you got to throw that in. So a 61-point triple-double. I mean, he's already averaging a triple-double, but 61-point triple-double. Not only that night, you had 37-year-old Steph Curry drop 52 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists, and he had 5 steals. So two assists away from a 50-point triple-double. What was more impressive to you? A 37-year-old Steph Curry dropping 52, or Nikola Jokic going bananas with a 61-point triple-double?
I feel like every time Nikola Jokic steps on the court now, he leaves with some all-time stat line that we've never heard of. So, I mean, that would be the argument. But for me, I think what's more impressive is Steph Curry, 52 points at age 37. I think you and I talked about before we even kicked off the show, it's his 10th 50-point game since turning 30, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like he's leading players all time for those that turned 30 and hit and made 50 points. And he did it mainly on 3-point shooting. I think he went 12 of 13 from 3-point field just alone. Got 12 rebounds, which is impressive in and of itself, was effective on the defensive side, distributing the ball. Steph Curry right now is playing at an exceptional rate for being as old as he is. People should think that he's on his way out. If anything, because of his shooting ability, he's probably going to be able to prolong his career for at least, 4 or 5 more years, maybe play to where he's in his 40s, similar to LeBron. But I don't want to take anything away from Jokic, because his game was in overtime, and that played into a part why his stats were kind of the way they were. But I think Steph Curry with what he did, and I know we'll talk about this at the bottom of the show, but he also had another great night Steph Curry did against the Lakers that we'll talk about later. And again, it's just further evidence that Steph Curry is probably this generation's greatest player, with how he's changed the game and still continuing to be effective on the court for being as kind of small as he is compared to all the giants that he has to play around.
He is unbelievable. And coming off that contusion of his backside there too. So for him to come out and drop 52 was greatly impressive, especially right now. Golden State, was falling back in the standings there. For a minute, they fell back to 7th. Now they're up to 5th again. So, I mean, this team needs Steph Curry, and they live and die by Steph Curry. He is that important to that team. But you know what, man, Joker, dude, 61 points itself is phenomenal from a big man. But to have a 61-point triple-double is it is unfathomable that he gives you triple doubles. Look, he's had 31 triple doubles this year already. He's got 179 total for his career. This leads into my next question. Joker sat out, had that bum elbow, kind of sat out for a few games. Nuggets had some losses. SGA had some pretty impressive games and padding his stats. And all of a sudden, he's like, "Oh, SGA is running away with the MVP. This is his, blah, blah." Then Joker comes back and does that. Does being the MVP mean you're the best in the world? Or, because to me right now, Nikola Jokic is the best basketball player in the world, period. I mean, we can argue about that. I think he is, pound for pound,
Mhm.
the best basketball player in the world. And it's going to be hard for him to win the MVP. I think SGA, as well as OKC, is playing as he's leading the scoring in the NBA. Even though Jokic is averaging a triple-double, which is phenomenal for a big man to do that. But if SGA wins the MVP, would you still consider Jokic the best player in the world? Does that go hand in hand? So, like, if you win the MVP award, does that mean you're the best in the world, or can they be two different people?
Man, that's a good question. I think, unfortunately, the NBA is answering that for us by saying the MVP is not necessarily the best player in the world. And the reason why is you want to give that example. I mean, how many times did Michael Jordan was he supposed to win the MVP? Because during his tenure, he was clearly the most valuable player, the best player on the court, but, you know, they gave it to other people. Kobe Bryant had several years where he should have been MVP. He didn't. It was, you know, it went to Steve Nash, went to Dirk Nowitzki, but, you know, Kobe Bryant was clearly the best player in the world at the time. LeBron James, in his 20 years, I think he's only won the MVP, I think 3 or 4 times, if I'm not mistaken. And he hasn't won it since his time in Miami, which was, I think, 2013. So we're going 12 years since then, and he gets considered for MVP, but clearly he's been the best player. And we're not even going to count this season. We'll just say LeBron James from 2020 or 2013 to 2019, we'll say, was the best player in the world, but didn't win an MVP during that time.
Right.
And Jokic is on the verge, if he wins this MVP, I think, if I'm not mistaken, will be his 4th, which is unprecedented. I think, yes, he can still be the best player in the world, no doubt. But in my opinion, and I still think this is true, SGA is the MVP of the NBA because, look, yes, Jokic is having a triple-double type of season. It's not the first time it's been average because Westbrook has done that already, won an MVP from that. But SGA is also leading the Thunder as we're recording this today on a 12-game winning streak. And he is averaging numbers that have only been done by 2 other people, one of them being Sir Michael Jordan. So he is in elite company right now. And I think, again, this kind of fits into what the NBA does is like, look, Jokic has already won it 3 times consecutively. Actually, well, 3 out of 4 years, technically, because Joel Embiid won last year. But SGA, like, he is doing what he can to not only make his team the number 1 seed in the NBA, but he's also showing that he's of value to that. Jokic's 61-point game that we just talked about came in a loss against the Timberwolves. Regardless if it wasn't his fault, still on the opposite side of that win column, which is not where you want to be. So I think that this is what the NBA is doing. Like, look, if you win the MVP enough times, you're kind of going to be forgotten for a little bit. I mean, Giannis was somebody that we all assumed would win MVP for 10 straight years, and he hasn't won it since, what was it, 2021, I think, when he won Finals MVP and MVP of that same year. So I think the NBA just tells us, like, look, you can win MVP, but that doesn't mean you're the best player on the team or in the league at the moment.
Right. And it is going to be, and I still think this is probably going to be one of the closest MVP races I think we've ever had, because when it's all said and done and guys sit down and fill out that ballot and they look at the black and white stats and they see what SGA is doing, they see what his team is doing, but they see what Jokic is doing, and the Nuggets aren't having, a bad season either, 3rd in the West. So I mean, they're still up there, but to me, I look at it this way: you take each of those guys off their team, how good are each of those teams without any of them? I still think OKC is probably top 6 or 7 team, even without SGA. You take Jokic away from the Nuggets, they're a lottery team. I mean, they really are. He dropped 61 and they still lost. That just shows you what he had around him. And he got a triple-double, so he's assisting his guys in it too. So it's a great conversation. This is probably some of the most exciting basketball we've seen in a long time. This MVP race is going to come down to the wire. But just when you think SGA's running around with it, Joker pulls you back in, man. It does some amazing stuff that you've never seen before. So who's going to win? I still think it's SGA. But right now, again, pound for pound, Nikola Jokic is the best basketball player on the planet right now because he is a phenomenal player.
So Jason, if you're saying that you still think SGA, like I do, will be MVP, is that who you would pick as MVP?
Ooh,
if Jason was the guy that could hand over the award to who he believes is deserving, who would Jason give the MVP to?
I'm giving it to Nikola Jokic. I believe that a player, a full body of work is, to me, more important than your record. Your record means you have a good team around you, your coach, your organization. Look, Oklahoma City was a first seed last year. And look how far they went into the playoffs. They got bounced pretty early. So to me, okay, they're doing the same thing they did last year. Nikola Jokic is having a phenomenal season, and his stats cannot be ignored. So again, I know you talked about Westbrook. Before Westbrook, nobody besides Oscar Robinson.
That's right.
A Hall of Famer, top 10 all-time. Oscar Robinson was the last guy, and that was 33 years ago, I think, or what at the time what it was. By time Westbrook actually broke that record and averaged the triple-double. So you talk about a point guard, but Nikola Jokic is essentially a big man. He's center. I mean, you can in today's NBA, you can kind of put him a little bit of anywhere because I don't know if we even really do positions
centers
anymore.
Traditionally.
Yeah. So I mean, but you talk about a big man to be able to do the things he's doing. It's just hard to overlook that. I love what SGA is doing. He is fun to watch. He is extremely athletic and an amazing basketball player. But Joker, to me, again, is the best in the world. It's hard not to vote for them. And again, I think this is going to come down to, and that's why I wish the MVP voting would kind of let the playoffs play first before they do that. I hate that they kind of do it real early.
Right.
To me, that also plays into the MVP conversation is what you do with your team.
I agree. Yeah.
Into the promised land. So it's a whole nother discussion. But if gun to my head, you had to make me make a choice. I'm taking Joker, man. It's just what we see him do every night is stuff you haven't seen before. I've seen guys do what SGA is doing. I've never seen guys do what Nikola Jokic is doing.
And at his size too. I think that's what's crazy.
He makes dad pods everywhere. Proud. It's a great thing, man. So yeah, it's again, this is going to be the closest race. This may come down to a vote. I think that's how close this race is going to be. It really is. So we're going to do a fast break here real quick. We're going to talk about the playoffs. And yes, I said playoffs in my Jim Mora voice here because, guys, the playoffs are getting so close now. It is finally, this long NBA season. We're almost there. We're about 8 games-ish away. But we have so much movement going on, too, which is exciting. Not a lot in the East, but the West right now, from 3rd to 10th in the West, you're only talking 3, 4, maybe 5 games where guys, if you go on a losing streak, all of a sudden you're seeing, because the Nuggets are in 3rd, they're 2.5 ahead of Memphis at 6. The Lakers are a 1.5 back in 4th. Warriors are a game. I mean, it's amazing. The West is going to be so exciting, especially that 6th, 7th, and 8th with the T-Wolves and the Clippers essentially a half a game away. The T-Wolves and Memphis are tied. It's just I think Memphis owes the tiebreaker. So tons of movement right now. First thing I want to talk about is the Mavs still in contention in the play-in the 9th position. It looks like they're going to make it, barring, knock on wood, any other Mavs type things happening. But they got AD back. They had a big win Wednesday night versus the Hawks. AD got punched in the eye, dropped 34-15, had a couple assists. Cody, we had the Mavericks dead, buried, on the next year, dead for the next 2 years here. But AD really has shot some life into this team. Do you think they are now relevant in the play-in tournament and have a legitimate shot to win some games in the playoffs?
Don't make me answer this, Jason,
I had
because
to. It's a question. It's a good question.
I think the Dallas Mavericks are holding on. Sure, they are holding on to what is it, the 9th seed right now? Is that right? Yeah, they're at the 9th seed. They probably will hold because it is a 6-game difference between them and the Clippers, assuming that they maintain the games back. I think there's less than 10 to go for everybody. So assuming that everyone holds position, I don't see Sacramento leaping them. In fact, I can see Sacramento probably snowballing their way to where they're tied with the Suns, who are on the outside looking in. But I think Dallas is just avoiding the inevitable. I think whoever they play, let's assume they get the 8th seed, they got to play OKC in 4. Dallas Mavericks don't have enough weapons. They don't have a deep enough bench. Now, if there was Kyrie Irving and AD, I would say, yeah, the Mavericks are probably the most dangerous play-in team to come in and upset, a seeding. Now, I almost would be surprised if Dallas is able to get out of the play-in, because assuming that they win their matchup against the Kings, which I would suspect that they do, their next matchup is either the loser of the Clippers or it would be the Timberwolves. And I think either one of those two teams would run the Mavericks off the court in a play-in scenario. So I think Dallas is avoiding the inevitable. I'm glad that AD came back, but it seems like there's always breaking news that AD's on the court and then he has to leave the court for an injury. I have not seen him leave a game start a game healthy and leave the game healthy. Since he's been a Maverick, he has left the game more injured than when he walked into the game with. So Dallas, I think, is avoiding the inevitable. I don't think anyone has Dallas going nowhere. Do they have a life? I guess, but they're on life support right now, and we're about to turn the machine off because they've got nothing. How far do we think they're going to go? Do we really think that they have a shot to really put OKC on their heels or the Houston Rockets? No, they just need to be done with the season so that way they can regroup, retool, do whatever they got to do. But right now, no, Dallas is not going anywhere.
Look, I buried them too. I was disappointed, but you can't blame the players for the ignorance of the front office. So I had to get them to look. You look at the 76ers who folded like a cheap suit. You look at the Suns who have completely given up on everything. So the Mavericks could have easily just mailed it in and forfeited the rest. Literally could have forfeited the rest of the season. And
nearly did with the injuries. They were only able to dress 7 people at one point.
Yep. That's why I'm impressed that they even are in this conversation. So that's why I got to give them a little bit of love, because again, anybody else, any other team that got beat up like that would have folded.
Yeah.
And the only reason I give them even just a remote chance, because as well as I do, in the NBA, things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, knock on wood, I hope not, but injuries happen. And look, OKC, they were top seed last year, made it to the Western Conference semifinals, and then got beat by the Luka and the Dallas Mavericks. So OKC, to me, hasn't proven anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't won any championships. They haven't even made it to, with this team, they haven't even made it to the finals. So until they do that, I'm going to give them the David Goliath shot. You never know. AD catches fire.
Sure.
I know they don't have Kyrie, but you never know. But again, I got to give them a little bit of love because I killed them. If you feel so bad for that fan base, you got to give them a little bit to be excited about. So, you got to throw them some bread. So I'm throwing AD some bread here, throwing some stuff at you. But, but we talk about those four, the big four right now. So you got OKC and the Houston Rockets, both having phenomenal seasons, number 1, number 2 in the West, but very young teams. I know the Rockets have a little bit experience on there with Van Vliet and Brooks. So you got a little bit of kind of some playoff experience, but not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got the Cavs and the Celtics in the East who, have, Celtics coming off a championship. The Cavs, probably one of the most complete teams out there right now from top to bottom. So out of those big four teams, what of those four, or who of those four, do you think is the most vulnerable out of them?
That's a good one. I actually have a little bit more confidence in OKC now that they've had a taste of playoff failure in the semifinals. And again, just like what you alluded to, losing to Dallas. So I think OKC will actually do better this go round. I wouldn't be surprised, depending on matchups, of course. I mean, everything's dependent on that. I could see OKC going all the way to the finals because of their youth and just how they've been steamrolling. Now, when you get into the conference finals, I think that's where it gets a little tense. The Cavs, again, same kind of scenario. Last year, they got bounced in the second round. I think it was actually in the first round, if I'm not mistaken, to the Knicks. Is that right? You got to correct me if I'm wrong.
I'd have to pull it up. I can't. I'm trying to remember who they lost to because I think they
or
had.
Was it Indiana? I don't remember. Anyways, I think the Cavs, with their success in this regular season, I think they'll do better in the playoffs as well. I think that they've come a long way. Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. I really like that team. I don't think that they're going to get to the finals, but I think they'll get far enough along. I think the Celtics. Go ahead.
It was Boston. So they lost the Celtics. They played the Celtics.
Okay, in the semis, I'm assuming.
In the semis, yeah.
Okay. Boston, in my opinion, is the strongest team in this four that you gave, and in my opinion, they're the team to beat in general. I think they're not even at their potential yet, and they're already the favorites, in my opinion. I would say that. But the most vulnerable team, to answer your question, Houston Rockets, strictly because of agent inexperience. I know we got Van Vliet on there. I know we got Ime Udoka on there, who was a former, head coach to Boston, who led them pretty far. But I still think they've got so many young players on that team. I think that they would get nervous. They'd get real tense, and they just need to experience the playoffs. They need to experience that failure before I'm ready to say, okay, I feel like they'll go further along. I think they're a tough out. I think whoever they get, it's a easy 6 to 7 game stretch, depending on who the matchup is. Right. And I think they can push any team to the brink, but I think they're the most vulnerable team. Like, they're a really great Cinderella story where young team, they shouldn't have won 50 games. They did. And they're really good with their defense, really don't have an alpha on this team. They're really kind of led by committee. But I think the Houston Rockets are the most vulnerable, in my opinion, just based on the inexperience. They're on your list here. They're the most inexperienced team out of these four. And that concerns me because when it gets into the playoffs, these teams get far because they know how to play in the playoffs.
See, I look at it a little bit differently. I think, to me, the Rockets having a phenomenal season, but they've got nothing to lose. They didn't come into this season with expectations. And sometimes you can really derail yourself if you start thinking about, man, we are expected to be there. And to me, the biggest vulnerable team I'm going to go with is OKC. You're the best record in the NBA. You've won over 60 games. You're going to have the MVP or possibly the MVP. But look what happened last year. You got steamrolled by a Dallas Mavericks team. So not only do you have that to think about, and that's going to weigh on your brain like, God, guys, we lost last year. So that's all it takes is a bad game, a bad loss, a ball tips in, you get a Ray Allen shot in the corner, and that bounces in, and next thing you know, you're eliminated. So to me, OKC is the most vulnerable team because they're the ones that have the most pressure. Boston's been there. Cleveland's playing well. The East is not as hard and not as deep, so I don't think they're going to have to scratch and claw as much as the West.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas OKC, you come across a Lakers team if they catch fire. You come across a Nuggets team or a Golden State team where Steph Curry starts shooting your lights out, and the next thing you know, you're down 20 points, and you got ghosts from last year haunting you.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, right now, OKC is the most vulnerable team because they have the biggest expectations. Boston's already won it. If they get back, great. Cleveland playing great, but easier in the East. Rockets, they're playing with house money right now. They are 2-3 years kind of ahead of schedule to where they're at and where they've been performing. They're playing with house money. I don't think anything is going to bother them in the playoffs. I think they're going to probably be the most free playing team that's out there because they're not playing against Father Time, where you have LeBron James and Steph Curry are playing against Father Time. Nikola Jokic has to carry his team to the promised land. But, man, OKC, expectations, the ghost from last year, I think that is going to be a lot. And that's going to say a lot about this team. And that's going to say a lot about SGA as a possible MVP, as the leader of this team. What is he going to do? And how is he going to lead that team and set the tone to get through the playoffs? So what happened last year doesn't happen this year. So it's going to be interesting. And that's why I'm so excited for this playoffs, because there is a lot of questions and there's a lot of good teams out there where someone can bubble up. And you talked about Cinderella earlier. I don't have any glass slippers on. I actually do have my regular slippers on, but I'm not going to show anybody right now. But in the play-in teams, if you had to have, we got March Madness going on. So, of course, we talk about the Cinderellas, although we didn't have any Cinderellas in the Finals 4 this year because you got 4 number ones. Yep. So, but who of these playoff teams do you think can make a little noise and be a Cinderella team and actually passively upset somebody?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. A couple of months ago, I would have said the Warriors, but honestly, the Warriors right now, they're 5th in the West, and I have a feeling they're going to keep climbing, so they're probably going to be more of the top echelon and not really a Cinderella. But if there was a Cinderella team that I'm really nervous about, if I'm and I'm strictly saying the West, because I don't think there's any Cinderellas coming out of the East. Yeah. But if I were to put my money on somebody in the West, I would say the LA Clippers scare me a lot. Kawhi Leonard now, Kawhi Leonard now looking healthy, is looking very good. He's scoring a lot, distributing a lot. James Harden with his scoring and his distributing. And they got Zubac now. They got a big man that's averaging basically a double-double. And with Tyronn Lue coaching them, they make me very, very nervous. And they got Norman Powell that basically is a facilitator, a really good third option. You know what? That's one of the teams that makes me very nervous because Kawhi Leonard, a former NBA champion, you got James Harden that's made deep playoff runs in his time with Houston, Zubac, who's been basically with the Clippers for a long time. You got Tyronn Lue, former champion. Man, the Clippers are a team that, look, they're right now 8th. Assuming they hold the 7th spot, let's just assume that. They would go against Houston. This is where I would say, Houston probably is going to get bounced because I see the Clippers with that experience and what they do as a team that could knock out the Houston Rockets. And then the Clippers you want to talk about playing with no expectations, they would be playing with house money because a couple months ago, they've been on the outside looking in and now they're starting to gain pace. In the last 10 games, they've won 8 out of their last 10. They're a team that is getting hot at the right time. They make me the most nervous. And I would say that they are my Cinderella of this playoffs right now.
Interesting. Unfortunately, anything that has to do with Kawhi Leonard, I don't trust at all. He is, over the past 5 years, ever since he left, Toronto, even during the Spurs and all that other injury stuff, I can't trust him at all. Yeah. And that's going to be tough for me because the Clippers, that's all he needs to do is break a fingernail and he's out. And I think the Clippers are done. It's hard for me because I think I got a couple of them. East, I got to throw the Magic in there.
Okay.
They're in the play-in. They're probably going to be in the play-in. Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Wendell Jr. They got some good young players on that squad. And I think if those guys, because Paulo got hurt early in the season, then Franz got hurt in the season. I think if those guys didn't get hurt in their season, I think they would be a lot higher in the East.
Yeah.
So I think if they catch fire, watch out, because I think Orlando can make a little bit of noise, especially since that East is a little bit weaker. But for me, I would be scared of the Timberwolves. I mean, look, they beat Denver in overtime against a 61-point Nikola Jokic performance. So if Ant Edwards and those boys catch fire, watch out for the Timberwolves. They had a hell of a run last year in the playoffs. So I could see them again catching fire and making a run in the playoffs this year. So watch out, Anthony Edwards. I think if he gets hot and starts getting kind of his little swagger going on right now, be careful, because those T-Wolves, if they stay in that 7th or 8th position, depending on where everybody falls, Memphis may fall, and they may slide in there. So they may get a 6th spot. Who knows what's going to go on in the West right now? Still a lot of games left to play. But I would not want to play the Timberwolves right now, because they have some muscle memory from last year. They know what to do and how to do it and how to get through a playoff series. So,
let me give you some stats real quick about Kawhi Leonard. This is why I'm nervous about it. In his last 10 games, he's been averaging 27 points. He's been averaging nearly 8 rebounds, shooting 50% from 3 in the last 10 games. That's why if they get hot, let's assume that he doesn't get injured. Okay. And I know this is tough because
that's the hardest assumption. He's going to get injured. There's no way you can't say he's not going to get it. It's Kawhi Leonard.
Sure. But okay. We can also say that. Hold on. We can say the same thing about Anthony Edwards having an ankle injury. How far could the Timberwolves go if Anthony Edwards isn't healthy with that ankle injury? We could say the same thing in the NBA. If you're healthy, we're putting it in that perspective. Some players stay healthy, some players don't. I'm acknowledging that. I'm just saying the reason why I would be nervous about the Clippers is, let's assume that Kawhi doesn't get injured. Let's assume they don't shut him down. That's my only argument. They would make me very nervous, because
that's not a good argument, because he always gets shut down. The history of it. Anthony Edwards had a phenomenal playoff season last year,
but he's going into it injured. And Kawhi,
everybody's going into it injured.
Kawhi just came back. He's now had 10 games of proving that, like, his scoring is back. He's shooting really effectively. That's not even the defensive stats either. That's 10 games is a good sample size, in my opinion. But all right, Jason. All right.
10 games. Well, although I'll give it to you, Kawhi Leonard for a 10-game stretch, that's probably one of the longest.
See, thank you. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm saying. 10 straight games. That's a miracle. We should, we shouldn't ask him to go walk on water or anything, but
Well, then they should have sat him till the playoffs started and got the 10 games out of him when they got to the playoffs.
Joel Embiid thing where they sit him for 45 games, then still shut him down anyways?
Exactly. That's a whole other. We didn't even get into that. I don't even want to talk about the 76ers. It's trash. But we're going to take a quick timeout, man. Woo! We're getting hot up in here. So, again, the playoffs are making everybody go crazy here, because this is a great time of year, man. But this time of year, you also have baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan. I love it. It was one of my first loves. Here on Boom Broadcasting, Chris DeLuca has the Dugout Debrief, which is probably one of the best baseball shows. You guys got to check it out. Go on to Boom Broadcasting, like and subscribe. You can go back and see some of his shows, but he's had a phenomenal offseason. Broke down everything, every team, everybody. He does an awesome job. But this young baseball season had me thinking, and I like to reminisce a lot, because as you start getting older, you start thinking about things, especially back in the day and that kind of thing. So I want to hear from you, baseball. We're going to talk a little baseball here on 3 from Deep, but I want to hear your top 5, because I like doing my top 5.
Yep.
My little top 5 things here. I want your top 5 favorite baseball players that you either enjoy watching or have enjoyed watching.
All right. So I think I'm going to give you a nostalgic list, because there's a lot of today good players, because I'm a baseball fan too. I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. So Chris and we're at odds with our teams, but no doubt he has great content and super wealth and knowledge in terms of baseball. So definitely a good show to go watch for those that are interested. But my top 5 favorite list, I don't know how anyone can watch baseball and not have Barry Bonds at the top of your list. The greatest hitter of all time, juice or not juice. I don't want to hear this argument about whatever. That man is a home run leader of all time, best hitter. Even if we took his stats from when he wasn't supposedly on the juice, he was a Hall of Famer then. He's still a Hall of Famer today. He deserves to be in the Hall. So Barry Bonds is my number one all time. Number two, and again, there's a theme to it. Tim Lincecum of the Giants, and not because he's some flash in the pan pitcher. The hair, the wind up, and just his playoff. He was, I think, like 5'7" and like $150, mowing guys down from the strike zone, and he was just electric. And I got to see him play a couple times from the Fresno Grizzlies. That was the affiliate for the Giants way back in the day. And Tim Lincecum was one of the best pitchers to come across the Giants, and his windup, his delivery, just a freak. And that's why his nickname was the Freak for all those years. So Tim Lincecum is my number two. Number three, Randy Johnson, the big unit. That guy was such a fun watch. And every time he got on the mound, you knew it was going to be a great day for pitchers. And Randy Johnson is up there for me as one of my favorite players. Number four, Jason, I thought about this one because I don't know how I can leave him off. Jarrett Captain Jeter, probably one of the best players of baseball, super consistent. Every time I see the Yankees, I think of Derek Jeter and also Mariano Rivera, but more or less Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter was one of my favorite players, and I had a baseball glove that was done by Derek Jeter, so I had that growing up. So one of my favorite players. And then number five, Greg Maddux. I don't know.
Wow.
Greg Maddux was one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and he didn't throw anything harder than like 94 miles an hour, but he was so cerebral, just painting the strike zone, getting guys out, had nasty stuff. Greg Maddux is one of the all-time great pitchers for me, and he's in my top five.
That's awesome. I actually have a Greg Maddux story.
Ooh,
I worked as a shoe salesman in the Palm Beach Gardens Mall back about 20 years ago. And Greg Maddux walked into my store, and I actually got to fit him for a pair of shoes.
Oh, there we go.
I literally had a sports memorabilia store next door. So I ran next door and got me a baseball, and had a baseball signed by Greg Maddux, but I actually got to sell him a pair of shoes, him and Tim Raines. So I was in heaven. I was in heaven. So shout out Palm Beach Gardens. Man, that's a great list, dude. That's unbelievable. So I'll give you my top five. My number five, we just lost him not too long ago, but Ricky Henderson.
Oh,
Ricky
yes.
loves some Ricky. You talk about one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Stolen base leader by a mile. 1,406 stolen bases. He broke Lou Brock's record. Lou Brock's record was 938.
Jeez.
Crushed it. And nobody right now in the game is even close. Like that's one of those probably unbreakable records he had.
Right.
2,295 runs scored. Phenomenal. Has the record for most steals in a year with 130 in 1982. Played 25 years. He played over 3,081 games in his career. And he was Deion Sanders before Deion Sanders. Like his attitude and the way he presented himself and talked in the third person. Ricky played good today. I mean, he was so much fun. We got to see him on the Yankees for a little bit. Of course, Oakland and some of the other teams he played for. But one of my favorite all-time baseball players, but one of the greatest guys. Go watch highlights of him. Ricky Henderson was the man.
Yeah.
Number four, Mariano Rivera. I am, of course, a huge Yankee fan.
Yeah.
I still get chills when I hear Enter the Sandman, because when he would come in, I've never felt electricity like when he would come in and save. The all-time saves leader, 652, 5 rings, of course. In 141 innings of playoff baseball, he's only given up 2 home runs. Mo Rivera, and then when he retired and Pettit and Jeter came out.
Oh, yeah, such emotional.
I still get a lump in my throat. I mean, he was the greatest player, aura around him. and he did it off of one stinking pitch.
Yep.
The cutter. I mean, he broke bats.
Couldn't touch it. Why change it? You couldn't touch it.
The only thing that broke my heart was in, 2001 or 2002 when he lost to Arizona.
Oh, yeah, off that little bloop single from Luis Gonzalez. Yep, I remember that.
That broke my heart. I still can't watch that to this day. But Mariano Rivera, I love you, dude. He was, if I need an out, he's a guy I'm bringing in.
Yeah.
Number 3, to me, in my lifetime, besides Ted Williams and some of the other great hitters, Tony Gwynn.
Oh, my gosh,
Tony Gwynn is probably the greatest hitter, just pure hitter of the baseball of all time, even above Ted Williams. Ted Williams hitting 400, 3,141 hits. He's only struck out 3 times in a game, like 3 times in his career.
Right.
He never struck out. He always got on base. Probably one of the most underrated guys that out there as far as greatness, because when you hear about it, you talk about Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio, the 56 game hitting streak. But guys, Tony Gwynn, rest his soul, was probably one of, again, the greatest baseball players of all time. Number 2, you talked about my man, Derek Jeter. He was, for my era, he was our Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I used to work in sports memorabilia a lot. And I would talk to some of the old school guys, and they would talk about Mickey Mantle. And guys would I would watch 60-year-old, 70-year-old men come to tears. They would talk about how watching Mickey Mantle brought them to tears. Derek Jeter is my Mickey Mantle. The only Yankee to have over 3,000 hits, which is amazing because you would think, okay, God, the Yankees have how many Hall of Famers?
Yep.
How many rings? But Derek Jeter is the only Yankee to have over 3,000 hits. Of course, 5 rings. And to this day, I remember watching the flip play live on TV when it happened.
Yep.
And again, it still kind of chokes me, but I think it's probably one of the greatest heads-up baseball plays I think I've ever seen. And he's done the diving in the stands. He does the jump throw out there at shortstop. But that flip play where he got Jeremy Giambi out, Jorge Posada, a lot of people say he was safe, but I don't know. I still think he was out. But for what he did coming out of nowhere to grab that ball and flip it back, one of the greatest baseball plays I've ever seen. And again, one of the most underrated baseball players, because there's a lot of players out there that don't like Derek Jeter, which is weird because he never
got in trouble.
Never got in trouble. He had, the dating thing was kind of a cool thing, but who wouldn't want to be Derek Jeter in New York City, the king of New York? So, I mean, that's just people being jealous.
Yeah.
But to me, one of the greatest Yankees of all time, he's on the Mount Rushmore of the Yankees. That's how phenomenal he is. And I don't know if anybody's ever going to be able to pass that. So he's my number 2. My number 1, he was my guy growing up. He's always going to be my number 1, was Don Mattingly.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Don Mattingly was my number 1 growing up when I was younger. I still have a number 23 jersey that I wear all the time. Lifetime 307 batting average, 21 over 2,100 hits, almost 1,100 RBIs, 1099, 222 home runs. If he hadn't had the back issues, if they hadn't had the strike in 95, I think Don Mattingly is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But some of those things that happened to him with the injuries and then later on his career, unfortunately being on some really bad teams, really hurt him. But he was my guy growing up. That was like, I idolized him. I had posters of him on the wall. I still remember the poster of him in the Yankees pinstripe suit, holding the bat like a Tommy gun with the Hitman on it. Had the bullet holes in it. Look it up. It's a cool poster. Probably one of the coolest posters I've ever seen. I wish I had it here. But man, that was my number 1. So that was my list. I appreciate you sharing me your list. Again, that's awesome. I love baseball. Baseball's in full swing right now, guys. Forget the torpedo bats. Let's get all that stuff out of the way. They're just looking for fodder to come up with in the beginning of the season. So, but guys, check out Chris DeLuca on the Dugout Debrief here on the Boom Broadcasting Network. He does a phenomenal job with baseball. So we're gonna go time in. I appreciate you doing that with me, Cody.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, we're gonna get up into the layup line here a little bit. We're gonna jump into this. I want to talk about it because it's being talked about right now. Ja Morant. Ja Morant had a game winner Thursday night, but it's kind of marred right now. He was fined $75,000 because, of course, the NBA warned him about the gunplay, finger pointing. My question to you, is this because it's Ja and he's had a little bit of the checkered history? Or is the NBA turning into the no fun league?
I think what's difficult is I don't see the NBA really turning into the no fun league. In my opinion, like they kind of are allowing some things to kind of go, in respect of like they're allowing competitiveness. They do want a little bit of a rivalry. And I do want to exclude the Detroit, and I think is it the Timberwolves that got into a little scuffle? Was that right, or was it a different team? It was the Pistons, the Pistons and the T-Wolves. They got a little dust up, which was great because if you remember, Jason, there was an episode that you and I did again together where we talked about the NBA All-Star Game being weak compared to the NHL, and there was that big thing. So the fact that little scuffle kind of brought some like energy and juice to the NBA about its toughness, at least its grit is great. What I think is bad is you got Ja Morant, who has a known history of, something about like not a gang affiliate, but like he has a checkered past of like he was seen in a club. There was an altercation. There was a whole court thing behind it. There was a gun charge that was on there. He hit a minor. Like there's all these things that Ja has gone through in his career. And I don't necessarily think it's he's being picked on, but it's kind of him being unaware of his situation. Like we even had this conversation about the face of the league where we really can't even look at Ja for that because of his off the court issues.
Right.
And it's kind of well documented of what those issues are. And some of them are stirring from guns and firearms and whatever. And so for him to do a gesture that he's done it twice, which is why the NBA fined him $75,000. The fact that that was done is probably because of what situation he has put himself in. And I don't think it's the NBA showing no fun. It's like they are drawing a line of like what they think is appropriate and not appropriate. And regardless of where you stand with firearms or not, it is not a great look to show young kids that motion, considering like stuff around this country and firearms and all that. That's my position on it. However, I do like the rivalry. I do like tension. I do like, being given a little bit of competition, but this has nothing to do with like competition, in my opinion. It is like not appropriate in my opinion. Right. And I say that as a white guy here in California, but I just think that optics wise, it's not a great look. And it's kind of putting Ja's kind of playing the victim when he's the one that perpetrated his own reputation. So if he wants to cry foul, he really needs to take a look at his situation and kind of like reevaluate how he's putting himself out there, because I wouldn't be surprised if he loses sponsors or he gets, he loses a little bit of additional money because of the NBA, because he continues to do these gestures, and it's all stuff that he's brought onto himself.
Right. And they've talked about that with the Grizzlies potentially not signing him, after the season because of max contract. And I know the NBA has a history with gestures. There's a lot of and actually a lot of leagues now, you're not allowed to do the throat flash anymore. I think the NFL had it there too. You can't do the
arrow sign or something like that. You can't do right. I think they even did the waist, the lifting up to show like your waistband to represent like you're carrying is like another one you can't do anymore.
Yeah. So this is a history of some leagues, but I think this is definitely aimed at Ja Morant, and Ja Morant knew what he was doing. So I mean, the first time you do it, I get it. He in the moment. I think Dylan Brooks did it towards him too. So I think he was just responding during the one game there. But the second time he did it, because the NBA told him, "Hey, let's not do it." So the second time he did it, I think he knew what he was doing. He was just being Ja again. And to me, I mean, it's not fair, but it's fair. It's not fair. Yes, Ja, they're going to put you under a microscope. They want you to be a superstar in this league. So they want you to act like a superstar would, like a LeBron James, who kind of is, I say clean cut, but doesn't do a lot of those kind of things.
Right.
The gunplay online is a little suspect. I don't like it either. I'm not a huge fan of that kind of stuff either, because there is a big problem in this country, and a lot of it is because of stupidity.
Yeah.
To me, I as a Giants fan, I remember Plexico Burress shooting himself in the leg in a damn club.
And completely derailed his entire career of that. That's after winning a Super Bowl too.
Yep. So I mean, there's a history of this kind of stuff here. So Ja, they are watching you, but they're watching you because they know how great you are. If you were a scrub, they wouldn't care. But you're not a scrub. You are one of the top talents in the NBA, and he just gets in his way, and it's so disappointing. I'm a huge hip hop fan. I love hip hop music. I love culture. I grew up in that when I lived in South Florida. I lived in New York. So I kind of get it that you kind of want to emulate a lot of that stuff too. You want to walk around with that kind of swagger. But dude, you're going to lose a lot of money. This is the Stephen A. Smith stay off the weed kind of argument. It's like, dude, put your hands in your pocket, go out there and play some basketball and be a superstar, and you'll get paid. You did not grow up in the hood. You went to a private school. So it's like, come on, you're trying to perpetrate something that you're not. And it sucks because he is such a great talent. I don't see Memphis keeping him next year. I think he is gone next year. This is one of those things I think that gets him out the door. And the question I have, or the thought I had about this too, is if Taylor was still their coach, Ja would have done that. So I think that, this happened right after that firing. So now that he's gone, and his coach is gone, that probably policed him a little bit. Now you got an interim coach. Now you're going to just kind of do whatever you want. That says something about your character. So I'm really, really concerned about that. So not a huge fan. Ja, slightly disappointed. It cost you $75,000. I know that's a drop in the bucket for you, but it's going to cost you a lot more after this season because you're going to.
I mean, he almost lost his Nike deal with the whole. What was it again? I think it was this whole he hit a minor or something, or there was some investigation.
He had that, and then he was on. He did an internet video where he's flashing.
Oh, right. Yes, and he doesn't, and he's not supposed to have, or I think he doesn't even have a firearm registered to him, or something of that nature. But still, like, imagine him losing his Nike sponsorship because of that. And again, I think this is what my point, and what you said is completely on point, Jason. But I think also I would even argue that LeBron James, because of his reputation, could do a gesture like that and we not look much more than it was a celebratory thing or whatever. The fact that Ja has so much history about gun violence or, a court thing regarding it, it's kind of like you're drawing your own attention. So when the NBA tells you to stop and you still do it and then you cry foul about it, it's like they gave you a warning already. You already have a history about this, that you literally almost lost your career because of this whole thing.
You did it on purpose.
And it's kind of the reputation that you've done to yourself. Because I'm in the camp that if Jason Tatum, LeBron James, I'll even throw Luka in there just because of other name players. If they did that same gesture, we're not nearly saying anything about it because they, for all intents purposes, don't have any skeletons in the closet like what Ja has. Ja has put himself front and center of the situation, which is why now we're talking about it because of his own actions. That's all.
Well, it's going to cost him a lot of money. And which is a shame because he is a top talent. I'm a huge fan of him. Dude, Come on, man.
Mhm.
Let's be an adult here. Let's get over these kind of things. So, all right, get back into the layup line here. Giannis Antetokounmpo is quietly having his own MVP season. Had his own triple-double the other night, 35, 17, and 20 assists. 20 assists from Giannis. Right now, 5th in the East. Are we sleeping on Giannis and the Bucks? Like, are they going to be able to make some noise in the playoffs with Giannis playing like this?
You know what? Look, Giannis is a former NBA champion with, Chris Middleton. I think he had Drew Holiday on the team. So with a squad around him, he is top NBA talent, former MVP. He'll get you there. I think, they may sneak out a playoff series. I'm going to check the standings of where they're at right now. They are sixth right now. So there's
sixth.
Yeah, they're 6 as of today. So if the season were to end and their playoff matchup would be, in theory, the Knicks, could the Knicks win that series? I think so. Could the Bucks also steal that series? I think so. But here's my thing about Giannis. I think it's a great individual stats that he's doing. And don't get me wrong, 37, 20, and what was the other one? 17 is outstanding for one game. But right now he's 42 and 34. If he was having a bit more of an MVP type season, I would like to see him jockeying like the Knicks to almost getting 50 wins, all because of Giannis willing this team. And I feel like Giannis is probably that thing that's keeping them from being below 500. But This team is also significantly underperforming for all the roster that they have. And to me, that doesn't scream that Giannis should be the MVP. If anything, it screams that Giannis should get the heck out of Milwaukee, because Milwaukee right now with Dame and, he's getting up there in age. I thought the Kyle Kuzma trade was good, but it turns out it's not really that great of a trade. They really needed a player like, ironically, a Chris Middleton, a perimeter shooter, and Kyle Kuzma just hasn't been filling that role. And so Giannis is doing extra. But I don't know if that means Giannis deserves the MVP because we feel bad for him. I think that Giannis just needs to start looking elsewhere. Like, hey, Milwaukee, I think it's time for you to trade me. I think we've gotten our last thing. And I would also argue too, Doc Rivers is the coach holding this team back. I don't think Doc Rivers is the coach for the Bucks. And I think we're seeing that. Like the Bucks, for all intents and purposes, should be a lot stronger. I was even saying a couple of months ago on my show, I think the Bucks should be a team to be considered like a strong sleeper team. Now they're a first round out, in my opinion, depending on matchups. So I have no confidence in the Bucks. And Giannis is having great stats, but stats don't equal wins half the time. What else are you doing to elevate your team? I think is what I would ask.
Well, being without Dame hurts, the blood clot that he's got. Yeah. I wish him the best. There's no timetable for his return. So, I think that definitely hurts him. They had him out of Milwaukee at the beginning of the season. So, again, still impressed with this team's resilience, making it this far to 5th in the West. Nobody has really given up on the team. Do I see Giannis there next year? I really think they do. Giannis is that kind of talent. I think you would build around him. I don't know why you would even remotely think of trading him away. Yes, you do need to get some other role players in there because Dame, Kuzma, some of those guys are not the answer for him. But I don't know. Milwaukee, we'll see what happens. But, man, he is still probably one of the best players in the NBA right now. He just you don't talk about him enough because he doesn't have much around him. So it's hard for him. But then these games bubble up and you just kind of remember, we can't forget about the Greek Freak. So jumping in also too here in a layup line. Yeah, we talked about a little bit earlier, Chef Curry cooking up some magic again, takes out LA, 37 points in a 123-116 win. Brandon Podziemski, I know I probably said that wrong, but 28, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. So taking that kind of extra role in there because right now Jimmy Butler's banged up a little bit, so that's not boding well for him going to the playoffs. I know Curry is still kind of getting back from his injury, but again, from dropping 52, you would think he would be exhausted to come back and drop 37 in a win. LeBron had 33, Reeves 31, Luka pedestrian 19 points. But who do you think goes further in the playoffs? You got Golden State, you got LA. Who goes farther?
Well, here's what's difficult. The first round matchup is going to be, it looks like LA and Golden State. And to be truthful, what I'm nervous about Golden State is they've got the defense. I mean, say what you want about Draymond Green. He is somewhat of a subpar offensive player, but no doubt he was the difference maker in terms of defense against that matchup that they had. You got Jimmy Butler, who's also very good defensively, which makes it very difficult to, get anything offensively going because he's such a disruptor. And then you got Curry, who doesn't have to play good defense, but he is such a problem because now you got to worry about Butler. Now you got to worry about Pomitsky. Now you got to worry about all these other players, and Curry now can roam a little bit, which is why 52, also having 37 points against the Lakers. So, one of the things I'm concerned with the Lakers is they're starting to come back down to earth in terms of their defense is just not really reliable. And as soon as there's cracks in the armor in the game in terms of like defensive blown assignments, there's a lot of finger pointing going around. You should have gone here. You should have gone here. Right. And you can tell the Lakers right now, say what you want. Like, I think they'll go far, but their defense is going to be the reason why they're out. And I think Golden State has the better defense if you matched up the two teams. And I think Golden State, if they do get past the Lakers, and again, a lot of things have to break one way or the other, but if Golden State were to get past the Lakers in the first round, I think Golden State can go pretty far because of what Jimmy Butler does, what Draymond Green does, and what Curry does, and that experience with that whole team and Steve Kerr as their coach. So as of today, I would say I would assume that the Warriors would go further just because they can play better defense than the Lakers can in a larger portion of the game, which I think is very important when it comes to playoff matchups.
Yeah, I got Golden State too. Especially if Curry, I mean, they live and die by Curry. If Curry is on fire and doing what he's doing, he spreads the floor. The Golden State has more of an interior presence with Moody. Draymond Green can still be a nuisance. He's not the old Draymond Green that's going to get you 20.
Right.
He'll get you 10 and 10 rebounds and piss some guys off. So, which if you start getting in people's heads, but that's the thing that really concerns me is the Lakers is their defense is atrocious at some points in time in the game. It's like they just kind of give up, and their center position has no production at all. I mean,
absolutely none.
Hayes only got him 2 points and 3 rebounds during that game. And if the West is so tall, especially down low, to not have a defense and to not have any center presence is not bowling well. I mean, LeBron. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
To your credit, Jackson Hayes only had 2 points, 3 rebounds. He's a 7-foot center. Draymond Green was able to keep him in check, who's 6'5". So that tells you how much of a non-factor a center is for the Lakers, and that's why they run small. And another thing, too, I forgot to bring this up with the Warriors. They've got Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, who are 2 role players that are finally starting to come into maturity, and they've been on this Warriors team since their final runs. Even before they got Jimmy Butler and even before, they let go Klay Thompson. So this team is poised if they can put it all together, which it looks like they are because Butler is starting to fit in with this team really nicely. They could go pretty far, which is scary to think about that. The Warriors, again, may get another chip, and that would be their 5th in 8 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, and then Warriors did not look like that earlier in the season. I had the Warriors woes earlier I talked about early in the season, but definitely looking better. But some concerns on that Warriors I have is Jimmy Butler's got a little bit of a banged up, a little injury. Like I said, going into the playoffs, a lot of these teams have some people injured. Curry, how much is that backside going to hurt him? So for me, Golden State is about how healthy they can get going into those playoffs. And that's where not being a play-in team and getting some time off is really, really going to make a huge difference for teams getting healthy. But I'm excited. Again, these playoffs are going to be so much fun. The end of the season may come down to the last game on who's getting the play-in spot and who makes the top 6. So I'm also excited. Just another quick layup, another quick note here. My man, Jalen Brunson has been cleared for basketball activities.
Oh, how fun. There we go.
There's possibly Sunday he may return. So I'm excited to see Jalen back. I think he needs to get some games under his belt, get his game shape, get his game legs going. They definitely need him. They're about a 500 ball club without him. Karl Anthony Towns is still an amazing talent, but didn't do as much or wasn't as consistent as I would have liked. But put Brunson back on that team, man. I need my Knicks to come back and make some noise in the playoffs.
You need Brunson to look good for the Knicks, so that way when KD requests a trade, he says, I need to go to the Knicks, and he'll save your guys' season. There you go.
You know what? I love some KD. I think he's still overrated, but he can get you 30 points, but I don't see his game and his attitude fitting the Knicks. I see him more on the Heat.
Sure.
Or possibly playing with your Lakers.
Actually, I think he is going to either go to the Knicks or T-Wolves. I don't think the Lakers are going to look to expend a bunch on him. I think the T-Wolves and your Knicks, ironically enough, are the two teams that would be most likely that he plays on, in my opinion.
Again, don't be surprised. I could see some sleeper team, especially you get a young team like a Spurs. That, he can go play with De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama. You throw him on there. The Cooper Flag sweepstakes. Maybe a Charlotte gets Cooper Flag. LaMelo Ball gets healthy. Next thing you know, Charlotte throws a boatload of money at KD. Come play for us. Because, again, KD is essentially a mercenary. He has points for hire.
Ooh, I got a question for you. If you were the Sixers, would you trade Paul George for KD straight up?
Well, first of all, if you can get KD for Paul George, you better do it because Paul George is not Kevin Durant. So, yes, I would do that. But if I were the 76ers, I would try to, whatever you think of doing, don't do it because whatever you've been doing is not working. So do the opposite and maybe it'll work out for you.
Don't trust the process is what you're saying. Don't trust it
anymore. Don't come up with these crazy ideas. I think you need to trade away literally everybody but Maxey and that new rookie that you got. I think Joel Embiid needs to go away. I think you send him somewhere. I think Joel Embiid needs to go to the desert because I remember when Shaq got traded to the Suns, he talked about how the desert and that desert and the healing powers of the desert kind of made him feel better. So I think Joel Embiid needs to go to Phoenix down there. Maybe it'll heal his ailing body a little bit.
I was going to say he needs to play in a warm climate. Miami seems like it'd be perfect for him.
I don't know how well he would match. He would play with, you got Hero down there. You got Bam Adebayo. You got Wiggs.
Well, Bam wouldn't be on the team. He'd have to be a part of the deal.
Yeah, and I don't see that. I like Bam Adebayo because he is, again, to me, the best ability is availability.
Yeah,
so right now, any kind of trade that involves Paul George or Joel Embiid better not be for some of your top tier players because you're going to get headaches. So you better make sure it's like a 2053 second round draft pick or something crazy because getting either one of those guys, those are their reclamation projects. You know,
that's true.
That's the proverbial, you're going to the, repo man and getting a car with 3 tires and
you're going to the pick and pull.
Yep. And you're just kind of getting something so that hopefully you can put it together and do a rat rod. So these are rat rod guys. Don't Philly clean house.
Don't
do it. So Cody, dude, fun show, man. We can sit here and talk all night, man. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the support, guys. He was instrumental in my little intro video, which I love. I get hyped up every time I see it. It makes me feel big time. So I appreciate you, man. You've been a huge supporter of Boom. You've been a huge supporter of me, 3 from Deep, man. So I got nothing but love for you, man. I thank you so much for joining me tonight. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, very simple, man. I appreciate all the kind words. Very, very nice of you. Just Drew Code Sports Talk on social media platforms, YouTube. It's very easy. Just, also too, it's going to probably be all over the description here. But Jason, I always appreciate an invite. And dude, this is always a blast. And I think your longest episode yet, man. So always fun. And we could have a 10-hour episode and still have more to talk about. So I appreciate it, dude.
And we will get together again soon, man. I'm telling you, once the playoffs are set, I want to have a little, I've been telling everybody, I want to have a little playoff spectacular and really kind of deep dive in some of these matchups, because I think that's going to be the biggest story of the playoffs is going to be a lot of these matchups when all the dust settles and we finally know who's going to play. I think that's going to be so much fun. So thank you so much, man, for joining me. I appreciate you. And we'll be on again, dude. I'll see you later.
Can't wait.
Thanks, Code. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today, man. What a phenomenal episode. I told you, man, lots and lots of fun. Thank you very much for joining me again. I'm Jason Calenzo. This is 3 from Deep. Check us out, Boom Broadcasting. Check me out, 3 from Deep, 3 times a week. Mondays at 12, Wednesdays at 12, Saturdays at 12. Like, subscribe, drop me a line if you guys got questions, comments, concerns. Hit me up, man. I appreciate you guys for joining me, and I will see you later. Peace.